In a small, remote town, winter had settled in like an uninvited guest, making itself comfortable with frigid temperatures and relentless snow. The streets were blanketed in white, and the biting cold seeped into every home, amplifying the struggles of the residents. Families huddled together, trying to conserve warmth as the chill in the air whispered reminders of their daily hardships. In the outskirts of this town lived a 12-year-old boy named Lucas, who was about to face the most challenging night of his young life. Lucas lived in a modest house with his two younger siblings and their grandmother, who had taken on the role of guardian after their parents had passed away. The old wooden structure creaked and groaned under the weight of winter's grasp. The walls, once a vibrant blue, were now faded and chipped, reflecting the family's financial struggles. Despite the warmth of love that filled the home, they often lacked the basic necessities, and this winter was particularly brutal. As the sun set behind the distant hills, casting long shadows over the town, Lucas felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. He glanced over at his baby brother, Ben, who lay bundled in blankets on a makeshift bed in the corner of the room. At just 2 years old, Ben was the light of Lucas's life. His chubby cheeks and innocent smile could brighten even the darkest days. But tonight, Ben's laughter was replaced by the unsettling sound of feverish whimpers. "Grandma, I think Ben is getting worse," Lucas said, his voice barely above a whisper. He could feel the heat radiating from his brother's small body as he approached. His grandmother, a kind but weary woman, sat by the fire, her tired eyes heavy with the weight of exhaustion. She nodded, but Lucas could see the uncertainty etched on her face. She'd been trying her best to keep them all safe, but the reality of their situation was pressing in on her. The evening dragged on, and Lucas kept a watchful eye on Ben, who had begun to shiver beneath the layers of fabric. The warmth of the fire was a feeble defense against the cold that penetrated their home. Lucas's heart raced as he saw Ben's small body tremble, and a pang of fear gripped him. If his brother's condition continued to deteriorate, they might need help. Help that they could only find at the hospital. Suddenly, a sharp cry broke through the silence of the room. Lucas rushed to Ben's side, his heart pounding in his chest. "Hang in there, buddy," he murmured, smoothing Ben's hair away from his sweaty forehead. Panic began to rise within him as he realized that they could not wait any longer. The hospital was a long walk away, but it was their only hope. "Grandma, I have to take Ben to the hospital," Lucas announced, his determination hardening his voice. His grandmother looked up, startled. "It's too dangerous, Lucas. It's freezing outside, and you don't even have proper shoes on," she protested. But Lucas could see the fear in her eyes. "Please, Grandma, he needs help. I can't just sit here and do nothing," Lucas pleaded, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. With that, he made up his mind. He quickly gathered blankets, wrapping Ben securely and preparing to face the harsh winter. As he donned his warmest clothes, he felt the urgency coursing through him. Every second counted. With Ben cradled in his arms, wrapped tightly in the layers of warmth, Lucas opened the door and stepped into the biting cold. The wind howled around him, and snowflakes danced in the air, but he pushed forward, focused solely on his brother's safety. Each step was a battle against the freezing temperatures, but he pressed on, fueled by love and desperation. Little did Lucas know that his courageous journey would not only change the fate of his brother, but would also unveil a story that would touch the hearts of many in his town. As he ventured into the night, a hero was silently emerging, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The biting wind howled around Lucas as he trudged through the snow-covered streets, the dim streetlights flickering like distant stars in the night sky. Each step felt heavier than the last. The weight of his brother in his arms a constant reminder of the urgency of their situation. Lucas could feel the cold seep into his bones, but it paled in comparison to the fear that gripped his heart for little Ben. He knew they had to reach the hospital quickly, but the treacherous conditions made the journey feel endless. As Lucas navigated the icy sidewalk, he reflected on the bond he shared with Ben. They were inseparable, having grown up together in their small home filled with love and laughter. Ben, with his bright blue eyes and curly hair, was the embodiment of joy, and Lucas often felt it was his duty to protect him from the world's harsh realities. Thoughts of their childhood adventures flashed through Lucas's mind. The games they played, the stories they shared, and the dreams they had for the future. But tonight was different. The laughter had faded, replaced by the grim urgency of Ben's illness. With every whimper that escaped Ben's lips, Lucas's resolve hardened. He remembered the times they spent playing in the snow, how Ben would giggle as he tried to catch snowflakes on his tongue. That joyful innocence felt miles away now, overshadowed by the fear of losing him. The cold wind seemed to echo his worries, reminding him of the fragile nature of life, especially for someone as young as his brother. As they approached the hospital, a wave of relief washed over Lucas, but it was quickly replaced by a new wave of anxiety. What if they couldn't help Ben? What if it was too late? The questions swirled in his mind like the snowflakes around him. The hospital loomed ahead, its bright lights a beacon of hope in the darkness. But Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that the odds were against them. He quickened his pace, determined to reach the doors before his brother's condition worsened. Once inside, the warmth enveloped them like a comforting embrace, contrasting sharply with the bitter cold they had just endured. Lucas pushed through the double doors, his heart racing as he approached the reception desk. "Please, my brother needs help," he exclaimed, his voice trembling with urgency. The receptionist looked up, startled, and quickly called for assistance. Within moments, a nurse rushed over, her expression shifting from concern to alarm as she took in the sight of the feverish child cradled in Lucas's arms. "Let's get him into a room right away," the nurse instructed, and Lucas followed her, his heart pounding in his chest. He could see the frantic activity of the medical staff as they prepared for Ben's examination. As they entered the treatment area, Lucas felt a mix of fear and hope. This was a moment that could change everything for his little brother. The medical team quickly took charge, surrounding Ben with care and expertise. Lucas stood back, watching in awe as they worked tirelessly, their focused energy radiating confidence. He felt a surge of gratitude for these strangers who had dedicated their lives to helping others. The realization washed over him. He was not alone in this fight. They were all united by a common goal: to save Ben. As the minutes turned into what felt like hours, Lucas anxiously waited, his thoughts racing. The doctor finally approached him, her expression serious but compassionate. "Your brother is in a critical condition, but stable. He has a high fever, likely due to a respiratory infection, but we're doing everything we can," she explained. Lucas nodded, swallowing hard as the weight of the situation settled heavily on his shoulders. The relief of knowing Ben was getting help was tempered by the fear of the unknown. Unbeknownst to Lucas, a reporter was present in the hospital that night, capturing the raw emotion of families in distress due to the harsh winter. When the reporter spotted Lucas's worn and worried face, he felt a story brewing that went beyond just a child in need of medical attention. This was a story about resilience, courage, and the unwavering bond between brothers, and it was one that needed to be told. As the medical team continued their efforts, Lucas stood in the shadows, watching them fight for Ben's life. In that moment, he realized that he was part of something larger, a story that would resonate throughout the community. He had no idea that his bravery and love for his brother would soon make him a beacon of hope for others struggling in the same harsh conditions. The sterile smell of antiseptic hung heavily in the air as Lucas paced nervously outside the examination room. The bright fluorescent lights seemed too harsh, illuminating the worried expressions of the nurses who hurried back and forth. With every passing minute, the knot of anxiety in Lucas's stomach tightened, reminding him of the fragility of life. He glanced towards the door, half expecting it to swing open and reveal the doctor with good news. Instead, he was met with silence that echoed his racing thoughts. "Is Ben going to be okay?" Lucas whispered to himself, clutching the hospital bracelet that had been placed on his wrist. It felt like a symbol of his brother's vulnerability, a reminder of how quickly things could change. Just hours ago, they had been playing together, and now Ben was fighting for his life. The weight of responsibility felt heavier than ever, and Lucas wished he could trade places with his little brother, shielding him from all harm. Suddenly, the door opened and a doctor stepped out. Lucas's heart raced as he approached, desperately hoping for reassurance. The doctor, a kind-faced woman in her 40s, knelt to meet Lucas's gaze. "You're Lucas, right?" she asked gently. He nodded, his throat dry with fear. "I'm Dr. Harris. I want you to know we're doing everything we can for Ben," she assured him, her voice steady but filled with concern. "He has a severe respiratory infection, but he's responding well to the treatment," Dr. Harris continued, gauging Lucas's reaction. Relief washed over him like a warm wave, but the doctor's serious tone brought him back to reality. "He's still very sick, and we need to keep a close eye on him. You're a brave big brother for bringing him here," she added, a small smile breaking through the tension. Lucas felt a spark of pride at her words, but it was overshadowed by the reality of their situation. "What can I do to help?" he asked earnestly. Dr. Harris paused, contemplating his question. "Just be there for him, talk to him, and let him know you're here. That means a lot, especially to a little one," she advised, patting his shoulder before stepping back inside the room. Taking a deep breath, Lucas moved closer to the glass window of the room where Ben lay. His brother was surrounded by medical equipment, the rhythmic beeping of the monitors a stark reminder of the battle he was fighting. Lucas's heart ached at the sight, but he remembered Dr. Harris's words and focused on the bond they shared. He wanted Ben to feel his presence, to know he wasn't alone in this fight. "Hey, Ben," Lucas called softly, pressing his hands against the cool glass. "It's me, Lucas. I'm right here." He watched as his brother stirred slightly, his eyelids fluttering. "You're gonna get through this, buddy. I promise," Lucas whispered, his voice breaking with emotion. In that moment, he realized that even in the face of despair, the love between them was a powerful force. As Lucas continued to speak to Ben, a figure appeared behind him. It was a reporter, intrigued by the heartfelt scene unfolding. He watched as Lucas poured his heart out, captivated by the boy's unwavering spirit. This was not just a story about a sick child. It was a story about the power of familial love and courage in the face of adversity. The reporter approached Lucas, introducing himself. "I'm here to cover the impact of this winter on our community, but I think your story is something people need to hear." Lucas looked up, surprised. "My story?" he echoed, unsure of what the man meant. "Yes, the way you're caring for your brother. It's inspiring," the reporter said, his voice sincere. Lucas felt a mix of emotions, shyness, pride, and a hint of hope. He had never considered himself a hero. He was just a brother trying to save his sibling. But perhaps his story could inspire others in the community facing similar struggles. The thought made his heart swell with purpose. He knew they were in for a tough fight, but with the support of the medical team and the love he had for Ben, they would face whatever came next together. The hours passed slowly in the hospital, each tick of the clock amplifying Lucas's anxiety. He remained at Ben's side, his small hand gripping his brother's, offering warmth and reassurance. As the sun began to rise, casting a soft glow through the window, Lucas's mind raced with the implications of Ben's illness. The doctor had mentioned the severity of the respiratory infection, and Lucas knew that time was of the essence. They needed a solution, and they needed it fast. Lucas felt a sense of urgency gnawing at him. He glanced at the medical supplies scattered around the room, each one a reminder of how fragile Ben's condition was. It hit him like a wave, the realization that he had to do more than just wait. His mind began to churn with possibilities. What could he do to ensure his brother received the best care? The thought of losing Ben was unbearable, and he knew he had to act quickly. He remembered the stories his grandmother told him about community resilience. During harsh winters, neighbors came together to support each other, pooling resources for those in need. Perhaps Lucas could rally the community to help with Ben's medical expenses, especially since the hospital costs could skyrocket. With a newfound determination, Lucas stood up, and brushed the snow from his clothes, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. "Excuse me, can I speak with the doctor?" Lucas asked a passing nurse, his voice steadier than he felt. The nurse nodded and promised to relay the message. A few moments later, Dr. Harris returned, her expression serious yet kind. "How can I help you, Lucas?" she inquired, noticing the fire in his eyes. "I want to know if there's any way I can help Ben more." "What do we need to do?" he asked, his voice filled with determination. Dr. Harris smiled at his courage. "Your support means a lot to him, Lucas. But the hospital also needs resources to keep providing care," she explained. "We can help with medical needs, but sometimes families face financial challenges. It's important to have a support system." Lucas's heart sank at her words, but he quickly recovered. "What if I organized a fundraiser or something? Maybe we can get the community involved," he suggested, excitement building in his voice. Dr. Harris's eyes lit up with appreciation. "That's a wonderful idea. Community support can make a significant difference, and it will show Ben how much people care," she replied. After a brief conversation, Lucas had a plan. He envisioned a bake sale at the community center, where neighbors could contribute baked goods and donate money for Ben's treatment. It would not only raise funds, but also foster a sense of unity in the town, reminding everyone of the strength they held together. Lucas left the hospital with a mix of hope and determination coursing through him. As he walked home, the cold air bit at his cheeks, but Lucas felt warmer inside. The thought of rallying the community gave him purpose. He imagined the smiles on people's faces as they came together for a cause greater than themselves. With each step, he was reminded of the bonds they all shared, no matter how dire the situation seemed. Upon reaching his house, Lucas began mapping out his plan. He would start by speaking to his grandmother and then visit the neighbors to spread the word. He even thought of enlisting the help of his friends from school, hoping to gather as much support as possible. The prospect of bringing people together ignited a fire in his heart, driving away the shadows of despair that had settled around him. As he prepared for the day ahead, Lucas knew that this was more than just a fundraiser. It was a fight for his brother's life, a fight that would show Ben that love and courage could triumph even in the darkest of times. With determination in his heart and a plan in mind, Lucas was ready to take the first step toward making a difference, not just for his brother, but for everyone in their small town. The sun rose high in the sky, casting a bright light over the small town, yet the chill of winter still lingered in the air. Lucas stood in front of the community center, heart racing with anticipation and nerves. Today was the day he would launch the fundraiser for Ben, and he felt a mix of hope and anxiety bubbling inside him. The success of this event could mean everything for his brother's treatment, and he was determined to make it happen. With a quick glance around, Lucas could see that the community had already begun to gather. Neighbors, some familiar and some new faces, were arriving with trays of baked goods in hand, cookies, pies, and cakes of all shapes and sizes. The sweet aroma filled the air, mingling with the cold breeze and sparking a warmth in Lucas's heart. He felt a swell of gratitude for the kindness of those around him. This wasn't just about raising money. It was about showing Ben that they were not alone in this fight. As people set up their stalls, Lucas went from table to table, helping where he could. "Thank you for being here," he said, beaming at each person who contributed. "It means so much to my brother." The warmth of their smiles reassured him, each acknowledgement solidifying the idea that community could provide strength during challenging times. But Lucas wasn't just a spectator. He had a role to play. He prepared a sign that read, "Bake Sale for Ben," with bright colors that contrasted against the cold outside. He wanted everyone to know why they were there, to save his brother and to support each other. As he stood in front of the table, he took a deep breath, mentally preparing himself for the hours ahead. "Ready, Lucas?" A friendly voice called out. It was Mia, one of his classmates who had come to help. "Let's make this happen," she encouraged, her enthusiasm infectious. With Mia by his side, they began to attract customers, sharing Ben's story and the importance of their cause. Lucas watched as people opened their wallets, donating not just money, but also words of encouragement and support. As the day progressed, the community rallied together, and the atmosphere transformed into one of camaraderie and hope. Laughter filled the air as families came together, sharing treats and stories. Lucas felt a sense of belonging, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there was light to be found in each other. But the harsh reality of winter loomed over them. As Lucas glanced outside, he noticed the snow beginning to fall again, blanketing the ground in a thick layer of white. It was a stark reminder of the challenges they faced. With the cold weather pressing in, Lucas knew he needed to ensure that everyone remained safe and warm. "Hey, let's set up some hot chocolate and coffee for everyone," Lucas suggested to Mia. "It'll help keep spirits high and warm up those who are braving the cold." She nodded enthusiastically, and together they organized a station where people could grab a warm drink. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and Lucas felt a renewed sense of purpose. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the town, Lucas took a moment to step back and reflect on what they had accomplished. The fundraiser was more successful than he could have imagined, but more importantly, it had brought people together in a way that made him proud. He could almost hear Ben's laughter echoing in his mind, urging him forward. Just then, the reporter who had witnessed Lucas's earlier bravery approached him again. "Can I get a few words from you?" he asked, camera in hand. "Your efforts today are inspiring, and I think it's important for people to see the impact of community support." Lucas felt a rush of excitement and nerves at the thought of sharing his story, but he nodded, ready to convey the hope that had blossomed today. "Sure, this isn't just about my brother," Lucas began, his voice steady as he spoke. "It's about how we can all come together to help one another, especially during tough times like these." As he spoke, he felt the warmth of the community surrounding him, and he knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter, not just for Ben, but for everyone in their town. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple as Lucas returned home from a successful day at the bake sale. Despite the chill in the air, his heart felt warm with gratitude. The community had come together in a way he had never imagined, and he felt hopeful about Ben's recovery. However, as Lucas entered their small home, a wave of worry washed over him. He knew the battle was far from over. Lucas found his grandmother sitting in her favorite armchair, her hands clasped tightly together. The lines on her face deepened with concern as she looked up at him. "Lucas, how did it go today?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly. The weight of their circumstances hung heavily in the air, and Lucas felt an urge to shield her from the harsh reality they faced. "It went really well, Grandma. We raised a lot of money and people were so supportive," he replied, trying to maintain a cheerful demeanor. But as he spoke, a flicker of doubt crossed his mind. What if it wasn't enough? What if the funds raised wouldn't cover Ben's treatment? "That's wonderful to hear," she said, a hint of relief evident in her voice. But Lucas noticed her gaze drift toward the window, where the snow continued to fall relentlessly, covering the ground in a thick white blanket. The harsh winter was an ever-present reminder of their struggles, and he knew they needed to prepare for the worst. Later that evening, as Lucas lay in bed, the anxiety he had pushed aside during the fundraiser began to creep back in. He closed his eyes, willing himself to sleep, but his thoughts raced. What if Ben's condition worsened? What if they ran out of money for his treatment? The what-if spiraled in his mind, and he felt powerless against them. The next morning, Lucas awoke to the sound of his grandmother's soft voice, speaking with someone on the phone. As he listened, he realized she was discussing Ben's situation with the hospital. His heart sank as he heard her mention the costs involved. He knew they were already struggling, and the thought of being unable to provide for his brother gnawed at him. After she hung up, Lucas approached her, concern etched on his face. "Grandma, is everything okay?" "What did they say?" he asked, trying to sound calm. She turned to him, her eyes reflecting both worry and love. "They're doing their best, but Ben's treatment is expensive, and we may need to find additional support," she replied, her voice trembling. Lucas felt a rush of determination, "We can't give up, Grandma. I'll organize another fundraiser. Maybe we can even get local businesses involved," he exclaimed, feeling a spark of hope ignite within him. His grandmother looked at him, a mix of pride and sadness in her eyes. "You're so brave, Lucas. But we need to be realistic too. This is going to be a long battle." "Then we'll fight it together," he said, his resolve strengthening. Lucas knew the road ahead would be difficult, but he was ready to face it head on. He began to brainstorm ideas, thinking of how they could reach out to more people in the community. Perhaps they could host a small carnival or a charity event. The possibilities were endless if they worked together. That afternoon, as Lucas prepared to meet with his friends and discuss his plans, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He remembered the words of Dr. Harris. Support was vital, not just for Ben, but for everyone affected by the harsh realities of their town. Lucas was determined to turn their struggles into a source of strength and resilience, bringing hope to those who felt lost. As he gathered his friends, Lucas shared his vision for the next fundraiser. "We can create something fun and engaging for everyone, a way for the community to come together and support each other," he said enthusiastically. The idea of a carnival sparked excitement among his friends, and they began to brainstorm ideas for games, food stalls, and activities. As they spoke, Lucas's mind wandered back to Ben, lying in that hospital bed, and he felt a surge of love for his brother. This wasn't just about raising money. It was about showing Ben that they were all in this together, that they believed in him and his recovery. The thought fueled his determination even more. With the planning underway, Lucas felt a sense of hope blooming within him. Despite the challenges they faced, he knew that they would fight for Ben and that the power of community could create ripples of change. Little did he know, his journey was only beginning, and the strength they would find together would become a beacon of hope for many. The day of the carnival arrived, and Lucas felt a mix of excitement and nerves coursing through him as he and his friends set up the various booths and activities in the town square. Colorful banners flapped in the brisk winter breeze, and laughter echoed in the air as families began to gather. The sense of community was palpable, and for a moment, Lucas allowed himself to feel optimistic about the future. This event was not only about raising funds for Ben's treatment, but also about showing that they could stand together against the challenges they faced. As the carnival got underway, Lucas made sure to check on everything, ensuring that each game was stocked and each snack stall was ready for customers. His friends were enthusiastic, and the energy was infectious. "This is going to be great," Mia shouted, bouncing over with a box of freshly baked cookies. Lucas smiled, grateful for the support of his friends and the entire community who had come out to help. However, as the sun began to set and the temperature dropped further, Lucas's thoughts returned to Ben, still recovering in the hospital. He couldn't shake the worry that nagged at him. Would the money they raised be enough? Would it help pay for the treatment Ben so desperately needed? Each laugh from the children and cheer from the parents felt like a reminder of the weight he carried. He pushed those thoughts aside and focused on the task at hand. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared at the carnival, a doctor from the hospital. It was Dr. Harris, and she looked radiant despite the long hours she must have been working. Lucas's heart lifted at the sight of her. "Lucas, I came to see how the fundraiser is going," she called, her smile brightening the chilly evening. Lucas rushed over, excitement bubbling within him. "It's going great. Everyone is here, and we're raising money for Ben," he replied, eager to share the spirit of the event. Dr. Harris's expression shifted to one of warmth and appreciation. "I'm so proud of you for organizing this. Ben will be thrilled to know how much everyone cares," she said, her voice full of encouragement. As the carnival continued, the crowd grew larger, and the excitement became contagious. Lucas moved around, chatting with people and sharing stories about Ben's bravery. The atmosphere was filled with laughter, joy, and a sense of unity that Lucas had never experienced before. It was as if the entire town was rallying around him, showing their support in a way he could have only dreamed of. As the evening progressed, Lucas glanced at the donation box, which was rapidly filling with contributions. Each coin and bill represented hope for Ben's recovery. Yet, in the back of his mind, he remained anxious about how things would unfold. Just as he was starting to relax, he noticed a chilling gust of wind whip through the carnival. The laughter seemed to quiet for a moment, replaced by a collective shiver from the attendees. Lucas quickly gathered his friends. "Let's make sure everyone stays warm. We can set up hot drinks and blankets for the families," he suggested. They sprang into action, setting up a makeshift station for hot chocolate and tea. As they worked together, Lucas felt a sense of purpose wash over him. They were not just raising money. They were creating a supportive environment for each other during a harsh winter. As the night drew on, Lucas found a quiet moment to step back and reflect. He stood by the donation box, feeling a swell of pride and gratitude for the support of his friends and neighbors. This community was a tapestry woven together by kindness and resilience. The cold might be brutal, but the warmth of their shared humanity was undeniable. However, deep inside, Lucas still felt the weight of uncertainty. He knew he needed to visit Ben at the hospital and tell him about the carnival's success. As he prepared to leave, Dr. Harris caught his attention one last time. "Remember, Lucas, no matter what happens, your courage and love for your brother are what truly matter," she reminded him. With renewed determination, Lucas set off towards the hospital. The glow of the carnival faded behind him as he entered the quiet, sterile environment of the hospital. His heart raced at the thought of seeing Ben again. He had poured his heart and soul into the fundraiser, and now he was ready to share the good news with his little brother. No matter the outcome, Lucas knew that together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The atmosphere in the hospital was a stark contrast to the lively carnival Lucas had just left behind. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air as he walked through the quiet corridors, his heart racing with anticipation and worry. Each step felt heavy as he made his way to Ben's room, the echoes of distant beeping machines a constant reminder of the fragility of life. Lucas took a deep breath, trying to steady himself before entering. When he finally reached the door to Ben's room, Lucas paused for a moment. He could see through the small window that his brother was nestled in the hospital bed, surrounded by medical equipment. Tubes and monitors beeped rhythmically, and for a brief moment, Lucas felt a surge of panic. He had been so focused on the fundraiser, yet here was the stark reality of Ben's situation. But he pushed those fears aside. He had to be strong for Ben. Gently, Lucas opened the door and stepped inside, his heart aching at the sight of his little brother. Ben looked small and fragile in the big hospital bed, his cheeks flushed with fever. Lucas moved closer, careful not to disturb the various machines that surrounded him. "Hey, Ben," he whispered, his voice soft and comforting. "It's me, Lucas. I'm here." Ben stirred slightly at the sound of his brother's voice, his eyelids fluttering. "Luca," he murmured, his voice barely audible. The sight of Ben waking up brought tears to Lucas's eyes. "Yeah, buddy, I'm right here. I just came from the carnival. We raised a lot of money for you." Lucas felt a rush of excitement as he shared the good news, hoping it would lift Ben's spirits. Dr. Harris entered the room just as Lucas was speaking. "Hello, Lucas," she greeted warmly, noticing the connection between the brothers. "It's good to see you here. How was the carnival?" Lucas turned to her, his face lighting up with pride. "It was amazing. Everyone came together to support Ben. We raised so much money," he exclaimed, the happiness in his voice palpable. Dr. Harris smiled, impressed by the community's support. "That's wonderful news, Lucas. I know it means a lot to Ben and it helps us provide the care he needs," she said, glancing at Ben. "We're still monitoring him closely. He's responding well to the treatment, but he needs rest." As the doctor checked Ben's vitals, Lucas watched closely, his heart filled with hope. Each beep of the monitor felt like a pulse of life, a sign that Ben was fighting hard. Dr. Harris finished her examination and turned to Lucas. "It's important to keep talking to him, Lucas. Your presence is a comfort and it can help him heal," she advised, encouraging him to stay close. With that, Lucas settled into the chair beside Ben's bed, determined to be there for his brother. He began to recount stories from the carnival, describing the games, the laughter, and how the whole town had come together. As he spoke, he noticed Ben's eyes fluttering open wider, his little hand reaching out weakly to grasp Lucas's. "Did everyone come?" Ben asked, his voice still hoarse but filled with curiosity. "Yes, they all came to support you. Everyone loves you, buddy," Lucas replied, his heart swelling with affection. Ben's small smile, even through the fatigue, made every effort worthwhile. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, love could shine through. Hours passed, and as the evening light faded, Lucas remained at Ben's side. He sang softly, reciting stories of heroes and adventures, his voice a steady anchor in the storm of uncertainty. He spoke of their family, of their grandmother, and how she was waiting for them to come home together. Lucas wanted Ben to know that he wasn't alone. They were a team, and they would face this battle together. As Lucas watched Ben drift into a peaceful sleep, he felt a deep sense of connection and purpose. He had come to understand that this journey was not just about survival. It was about the strength of their bond, the love that held them together through thick and thin. The fight for Ben's life was far from over, but Lucas knew that as long as they had each other, they could endure anything. Just then, the reporter from the carnival peeked into the room. "Hey, Lucas, do you mind if I ask you a few questions for my article?" he inquired gently. Lucas looked at Ben, then back at the reporter, realizing that sharing their story could inspire others. "Sure, I'd love to," he replied, knowing that even in this moment of hardship, they could be a source of hope for others in the community. The following days passed slowly, each filled with moments of uncertainty, but also glimpses of hope. Lucas remained a constant presence at the hospital, spending every possible minute at Ben's side. The little boy's condition gradually improved, and Lucas clung to each positive sign, from the steady beeping of the monitors to the way Ben's cheeks had lost some of their feverish flush. Each small victory was a reason to celebrate, and Lucas held on to the belief that brighter days were ahead. One afternoon, as the sunlight streamed through the hospital window, illuminating the room with a warm glow, Lucas was surprised by a visit from his grandmother. She entered the room carrying a small basket filled with homemade treats, cookies and muffins that she had baked with love. "I thought you might need a little something to brighten your day," she said with a warm smile, her eyes glistening with tears of relief as she saw Ben sleeping peacefully. "Thanks, Grandma. This is perfect," Lucas said, a smile spreading across his face. He felt grateful for her unwavering support throughout this ordeal. As they shared cookies and stories, Lucas couldn't help but notice how the bond between him and his family had grown stronger during this trying time. Just then, Dr. Harris entered the room, her expression bright and cheerful. "Good news, Lucas. Ben is showing significant improvement. His fever has finally broken, and he's responding well to the treatment," she announced, her voice filled with optimism. Lucas's heart soared at her words. "Really? That's amazing," he exclaimed, barely able to contain his excitement. "Yes, it is. We're moving him from the ICU to a regular room later today. He'll need some extra monitoring, but this is a great step forward," Dr. Harris continued, her smile radiating hope. Lucas felt a rush of relief wash over him. The struggles they had faced were finally beginning to pay off, and he could see the light at the end of the tunnel. As they prepared for Ben's transfer, Lucas stayed close by, eager to support his brother through this transition. When the medical team wheeled Ben into his new room, Lucas felt a mixture of anxiety and excitement. The room was brighter, filled with the sound of laughter from other children, and he hoped it would be a place of healing for Ben. Once settled, Lucas couldn't resist the urge to tell Ben all about their adventures at the carnival. "You won't believe how many people came to help. We raised so much money for you," he said, his eyes shining with pride. Ben looked up at his brother, his smile slowly returning. "Did I miss the fun?" he asked, his voice still weak but laced with curiosity. "Not at all. There's going to be more fun when you get better, I promise," Lucas replied, grinning from ear to ear. He felt a warmth spreading in his chest as he watched Ben's eyes light up with interest. You'll be back to playing in no time, and we'll have the best adventures together, he added, his voice filled with determination. Meanwhile, the reporter who had been covering their story approached the hospital room, notebook in hand. Lucas, would you mind sharing how you've been feeling since the carnival and Ben's recovery? He asked, his tone respectful and encouraging. Lucas nodded, eager to share their journey. It's been tough, but seeing everyone come together gives me hope. It's like a reminder that we're not alone, he explained, feeling the weight of his words. The reporter smiled, jotting down notes. Your story can inspire so many others, Lucas. You've shown remarkable bravery, and it's important for people to see that they can make a difference, no matter how small, he said, looking genuinely impressed. Lucas felt a sense of pride swell within him, knowing that their experience could resonate with others facing similar challenges. As the day turned into night, Lucas stayed by Ben's side, reading to him and sharing tales of their family. He could see his brother growing stronger, and the thought of returning home together filled him with joy. The road ahead would still be challenging, but Lucas now understood that love, support, and community could overcome even the darkest of days. In that moment, as Ben's eyes fluttered with sleep, Lucas felt a renewed sense of hope. Together, they had weathered the storm, and they would continue to fight side by side. With each passing day, they were not just surviving. They were thriving, united by the bond of brotherhood and the unwavering strength of their family. The days turned into a blur of recovery and resilience. Ben had finally been discharged from the hospital, a triumphant moment that Lucas had eagerly awaited. The doctors had pronounced him stable, and the treatment had worked wonders. As Ben sat in the car, bundled up in a warm blanket, Lucas couldn't help but beam with pride. His little brother was back, and they were headed home together. As they arrived at their house, the familiar sights and sounds welcomed them. Lucas felt a wave of nostalgia wash over him as he stepped through the door. The cozy atmosphere of their home enveloped him, and he was eager to show Ben everything he had missed while in the hospital. Look, Ben, your toys are just where you left them, Lucas exclaimed, watching as his brother's eyes widened in delight. Their grandmother, who had been anxiously waiting for their return, rushed to hug them both. I'm so glad to have you back, my boys, she said, tears of joy brimming in her eyes. The warmth of her embrace felt like a healing balm, solidifying the strength of their family bond. It was a moment that encapsulated their struggles and triumphs, reminding them that they had made it through together. As the days went by, the community buzzed with the story of Lucas's bravery. The reporter's article had garnered attention, and soon, people began to recognize Lucas as a little hero of the town. He was approached by neighbors, friends, and even strangers who expressed their admiration for his courage. At first, Lucas felt shy about the attention, but he quickly realized that it was a chance to inspire others. One afternoon, while playing in the yard with Ben, Lucas was approached by Mia, who had been an integral part of the fundraiser. Lucas, you know you've made a huge impact, right? She said, her eyes sparkling with admiration. Everyone is talking about how brave you were to bring Ben to the hospital. You showed us all what it means to be strong. Lucas felt a blush creeping up his cheeks, but he couldn't help but smile. I just did what any brother would do, he replied modestly, but inside, he felt a sense of pride swelling within him. It wasn't just about him. It was about the community coming together, about the love they shared and the support they had received. Lucas understood that their story had become a source of hope for others in the town who were facing their own challenges. With the winter chill still lingering, Lucas organized a small gathering at their home to celebrate Ben's recovery and thank everyone for their support. Friends and neighbors filled their living room, laughter echoing through the walls as they shared food and stories. Lucas stood up to speak, his heart racing as he looked around at the faces of those who had helped him through the tough times. Thank you all for being here and for supporting Ben and me. Your kindness has shown me that we're never alone in this fight, he began, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. Together, we can overcome anything. Let's keep helping each other, because that's what makes our community strong. As he spoke, Lucas felt a surge of energy, as if he were channeling the love and strength of everyone in the room. He realized that this was more than just a celebration. It was a testament to the power of community and the bonds they had forged through adversity. The evening culminated with a toast, raising glasses filled with warm cider in honor of Ben's recovery. To family, friendship, and the heroes among us, someone shouted, and the room erupted in cheers. Lucas beamed, knowing that their journey had transformed not just their lives, but the lives of those around them. That night, as Lucas tucked Ben into bed, he reflected on how far they had come. Ben, with his eyes heavy with sleep, looked up and whispered, "Thank you for saving me, Lucas." Tears welled in Lucas's eyes as he leaned down to kiss his brother's forehead. "You're my little hero, Ben. We saved each other," he replied softly. With a heart full of hope and love, Lucas realized that their story was just beginning. The challenges they had faced had only made their bond stronger, and together, they would continue to navigate life's ups and downs. In the eyes of the community, Lucas had become a hero, but to Ben, he was simply the best brother in the world. As Lucas turned off the light and closed the door, he felt a sense of peace envelop him. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew they would face them together, united by love, courage, and the unwavering spirit of their community. Enjoy the story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Share your thoughts in the comments and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next thrilling episode. See you in our next video. Take care